Everybody. It sounds different. It is different. It's a Nick solo show. It's the Nick Wars time show this week because Matt is out on vacation with the family, having a nice little 4th of July getaway. And it's just me in the pilot seat this time. I mean, we've seen Chewbacca fly the Millennium Falcon before. He doesn't need Han Solo. Who needs Han Solo, right? Chewbacca doesn't talk too much. He's very quiet. He's a big hulking beast of a character, can beat up anybody in the Star Wars universe. We saw him kick Han's ass. So it's a solo Chewie show this week, everybody. And by Chewie, I mean me, Nick. It's that guy. So, like I said, Matt's on vacation. We don't have a ton to cover this week either. So instead of the normal 3+ hour long show, I'm looking to get you out of here in a nice hour to hour and 20-minute long joint. How does that sound, everybody? You like that? Because I think that's pretty nice for a little solo show. So, this week in Star Wars, we obviously have the new episode of The Bad Batch out there. For those of you who are watching it, I hope you are. It's a good show. We have some news on the Acolyte TV series that's coming up in future years. Who knows? We don't know have a date on it yet, but we have some info on that for you. We have a first look at Star Wars Visions, the anime project coming up later this year in 2021 to Disney Plus. And then obviously we have our top 5 band segment for this week. I may or may not do the question of the week because, you guys have been pretty lackluster on the question stuff recently. So maybe we just give you fuckers a break on that. But anyway, the first thing that I want to talk about is what I did during the 4th of July weekend. So on Saturday, I had my first house party since basically we've been in this house. We've had people over, we've had small groups over and stuff like that. But I actually had 10 people in my home on Saturday. We had a really fun time. Everybody got drunk. We played games. We shared memories from pre-pandemic times. And it felt like a little slice of home, It felt like a little slice of reality of post-pandemic life happening again. So I'm glad that I got to do that. I was a little hungover for 4th of July. Didn't do anything. Couldn't barbecue or do anything fun because it was raining here in good old Austin, Tejas. So it wasn't really a great time to be outside and enjoying the 4th of July. But, we still had a good time on the 3rd of July and into the 4th of July wee hours of the morning. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I've also started picking up and continuing a really old Diablo 3 playthrough. I realized recently that I had finished the base game, but I never went through and I never finished the Reaper of Souls expansion. So I was like, you know what? With all the Diablo news hovering around out there, seeing the videos and the in-engine alpha, pre-alpha renderings for Diablo 4, and then having Diablo 2 remastered coming soon, I was like, you know what? I'll go in and I'll pick up my Diablo 3 gameplay and let's finish off this joint. Let's get it all done. Finish up Reaper Souls, and then that way I can go into Diablo 4 in fucking 3 years when it comes out, having finished everything that Diablo 3 has to offer. So I've been playing that a little bit as well. And yeah, I mean, just generally on the Nick side of things, just enjoying life as it comes to me, navigating landscapes of ever-changing digital media and advertising and fucking making it work. So that's been my week. Enjoying some old games, some new games. I started playing Genshin Impact for some reason. I've seen fucking tons of people playing that game, and I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. So I booted that up for a little bit. Seems like it could be like a fun little adventure to play here and there. Have it downloaded on my PC and on my laptop, my brand new Razer Blade laptop that I got during the Prime Day sales. So yeah. If you're looking for a free to play RPG for your PC or your console, because you can get it on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and I believe it's on Switch as well. So if you're looking for a little free-to-play RPG and you like JRPG style games like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, something like that, download Genshin Impact, free to play. So check that out. And then, yeah, I mean, on the Star Wars front for me, and this isn't going to be a topic that we talk about, but the most recent, I guess you would call it, adult novel, the non-young adult, the non-children novel for the High Republic release. That is the Rising Storm by Cavan Scott. That released. It's in my possession because I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered it with the notion that I would be finished The Light of the Jedi already, but as you probably know from listening to the show back when I first received it, I have not finished it still. I did read about 50 more pages of the book, so I'm a little bit more than halfway finished, but I actually now have a reason to go in and finish it because I now have the second book literally sitting on my bookshelf and staring at me, so I have to go in and finish it up. I didn't finish it for no reason, basically. I enjoyed the story that I was reading. I was enjoying the character development, but I am a lazy bastard. And sometimes, like, I will read shit just really fast. And then other times I'll start stuff and I'll put it down, just like I do with video games. I'll fucking get halfway through a video game, put it down, won't play it again for a year or more than that. In Diablo 3's case, won't play it for 4 years and then come back to it. So, that's the situation that's happening with my High Republic read through. If you are a fan of the Light of the Jedi, or you are looking to get into the High Republic novelizations and reading, you can get the Light of the Jedi now. That's been out since January, and you can also get the Rising Storm by Cavan Scott, which is available right now on Amazon or in bookstores near you. So go pick it up. It's apparently very good, from what I've seen out there in the book review world. Not that I live in that world too much, but that's the end of our little intro here. So as we usually do week over week now, Matt and I start you guys off with a nice, freshly updated review and recap of The Bad Batch. So we have Season 1, Episode 10 out here. Episode 10 is called Common Ground. I know that Matt and I, for the last couple weeks, have been throwing out ideas about, what this episode could be about, given the title. We had title leaks for all of these July episodes about 3 weeks ago. So we were speculating. We're like, could this Common Ground, could they be working with a bounty hunter to help them fucking, get something? They have common ground with this bounty hunter, and the next one's called The Devil's Deal. Could it be that the bounty hunter that they were working with in Common Ground fucking shoots him in the back and then bang, Devil's Deal? We were wrong, I would say. Yeah. So Common Ground was an episode that was not really focused on the overarching narrative of like the bounty hunters being after Omega and the Batch being on the run from the evil forces out there that are trying to get a hold of her. They did mention it in the beginning of the episode when the crew were just kind of walking through their little day-to-day routines, but they did not encounter any bounty hunters in this episode. What this episode was about was a mission that the Batch was sent on to essentially extract a senator that was a part of that was the senator for a CIS planet, so pre Order 66 and pre Imperial reign. This senator on Raxus was basically the founding member of the CIS. Raxus was the home base for the CIS. Echo brings that up after they get the mission, saying that he essentially, why are we doing this? This guy was a part of the CIS. He's, a traitor to the Republic. But Common Ground being what it is, there is no CIS, there is no Republic, there is only the Empire. And now this senator is in dire need of extraction from the planet, as the Imperial troops have tightened their vice grip around it. So on the one hand, you have the Batch themselves, minus Omega, going to Raxus and freeing the senator from the Imperial shackles that he's been under since the Empire has landed on Raxus. And with Omega left behind, she is now trying to find some common ground with Sid. And early in the episode, you can see that things are not going well. Omega's very bored. She's just kind of sitting there. And Sid is not a very empathetic figure. She does not, she doesn't really care to entertain Omega. She basically is like, I'm on babysitting duty, and I'm also trying to run a CD operation and a bar. So she was kind of uninterested in messing around with Omega too much. But they were also able to find some common ground in the episode through the holo chess game that you see. You see Chewbacca and C-3PO playing on the Falcon way back in the OT. Apparently Omega is a whiz at that game, and she shows off her skills during a match that was being was being played in the bar, and then Sid ends up taking a liking to her a little bit more than she thought she would. So her and Sid team up, take down some people in this holo chess game, and end up making a nice bit of money for Omega and for the batch themselves, so much so that they've completely paid off their debt now to Sid. And all thanks to Omega's incredible strategic mind, as they brought up in this episode. Overall, I will say that this one was you're like I said, you're not following the primary narrative of the bounty hunters being after Omega and stuff like that. So it is a bit of a divergence off of that plot thread, but it does more world building and very important world building here, to where you're now seeing, the CIS planets who are fighting for their independence from the Republic are now essentially in the same situation that the rebellion is in. They're like, okay, well, we now have to fight for our independence or do what we can, start an underground movement to break away from the Empire. And this is happening again with the CIS planets, who are already doing that to try to get out of the grips of the Republic. So it was very interesting to see how that dynamic played in this universe here. Like I mentioned, Echo was not very happy to be undertaking this mission. Like he looks at Raxus, and he looks at the people of Raxus as traitors because of the war that they started against the Republic. He was very unhappy to have to go there initially and do this. So yeah, it was an interesting episode all around. Good world building, and that's kind of what we're focusing on now in the Bad Batch is world building. And this leads me to believe that we are, even though it hasn't been confirmed yet, that we are going to be seeing at least another season of this show. The fact that they're doing so much character development, so much world building over so many episodes in season 1 means that they don't plan on like just saying like, okay, this is season 1 and then cut end. They're building towards something bigger. They're building towards something more expansive than just a 1 season run with this show, it seems. Now that you're bringing in, the CIS planets and the senators from the CIS planets being rescued, Senator Singh, you could potentially start to see the seeds of the rebellion growing. As Matt and I have mentioned many times on the podcast, like technically the rebellion, quote unquote, was starting to be formed in as soon as episode 3, with the deleted scene that included Bail Organa and Senator Amidala and everything like that, putting together this alliance of senators that was kind of against all of the movement that was happening, with the Chancellor at the time fighting to keep his extended powers and everything. So the seeds of the rebellion were planted as far back as episode 3, and now you're starting to see that play out a little bit more in the Bad Batch. We may even get to see, we've already seen the seeds of the rebellion through Saw and his group earlier on in the season, and now we're starting to see like even these CIS senators who were formerly very much against the Republic may start to come in to the fold and work with former Republic senators to form the rebellion. So I was pretty happy to see that play out and the world building continue in a way that we really haven't seen it before. Like, you're seeing the political landscape kind of change very quickly now. And we knew that was going to happen in this series, because essentially you have the Clone Wars where you're still very much in Republic times and you're in wartime. And then you kind of skip forward to Star Wars Rebels, where the Rebel Alliance is very much in swing already. The Imperial reign and the Imperial vice grip on the galaxy is already well in place and tightened. So now the Bad Batch is filling in that intermediary period where you're kind of the in the period of time where the rebellion is still being formed and it's not fully formed yet, and you're dealing with a new empire that's not quite got its claws sunk into the galaxy yet. So I like how this show is starting to flesh out all of this different political maneuverings on both sides of the coin. So I thought it was cool. It sets up some interesting things, like I said, some interesting potential with the rebellion. And yeah, I mean, 22-minute long episodes. You guys can jump in at any point in the show and kind of, pick up what's going on and really enjoy the story that's being told. Some character building for Omega 2. She's apparently an incredible strategist. We don't know if this is just due to her working with the Kaminoans back on Kamino when she was, still essentially a lab assistant, or if this was something that may have been built into her when she was a clone. Like, she has an incredible strategic mind because of that. But it is something to note that she is a really intelligent strategist, and that's how she goes about winning all of these hollow chess matches against people who are essentially, who are way older than her, considered experts. And that's how she pays off the Batch's debt to Sid. So, really cool stuff. So yeah, not necessarily the best episode of the series, but I like the world building that's being done. I'm a big fan. Check it out on Disney Plus now. Every Friday you can watch it until they change the cadence of the drops. Then it'll be every Wednesday. And there we go. So yeah, Bad Batch Season 1, Episode 10, Common Ground, available now on Disney Plus. Before we move into our next topic, I do want to mention our amazing sponsors here at the Star Wars Time Show. That's right, they're back. Manscaped has come back to support the Star Wars Time Show for the beginning of summer. And you know what summer means. It means the sun's out. It means that buns are out. My buns aren't out. Mine are firmly planted within my shorts. My buns are too pasty to be out in the sun because they would just crisp. But hopefully your pubes are not out. Also, it's flip-flop season. I wear flip-flops. I wear Birkenstocks, but still, I wear flip-flops. So and I have some, I have to keep my feet at least a little looking nice, as much as I can. So with flip-flop season upon us and post-pandemic times out, like I said, post-pandemic times are here. That means your toenails are going to be showing. And guess what? We talked last time about Manscaped has you covered from the waist down for your grooming needs, and that includes your feet. So to cover your feet and everything else from the waist down, Manscaped has launched their 4th generation performance package and their Shears 2.0 nail grooming kit. Join the Manscaped movement by going to manscaped.com, and to get 20% off plus free shipping, use the code SWTS at checkout. So Matt and I, we got our performance package in the mail recently, and we were hit with some pretty cool stuff, and I've been using it pretty much every day during my shower freshen up time. So we got a new thing called foot deodorant that they have. It's like a spray. And I got to tell you, like I was saying, my feet are they're not great, but I try to do as much as I can to make them look as good as possible. And the one thing that the foot deodorant does is if you have smelly feet, that foot deodorant will really help you. It's really good stuff. But they also gave you, like I mentioned, the Shears 2.0 nail grooming kit, which as a kid, you never really think about your feet or your toenails or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, whatever. I know as a kid, I would bite my toenails, which is disgusting. And I know that some people can't even do that because of flexibility issues, but also that's just not the way you should groom your feet. You shouldn't be biting your toenails. You know what you should be using? Something like the Shears 2.0 nail grooming kit. It comes with toenail clippers. It comes with a nail file. It comes with scissors. It comes with basically everything you need to keep your feet on point, especially if you're going out to the beach, if you're going to be wearing your flip-flops or your open-toed shoes out during the summer times. You don't want long, disgusting ass nails out there. It's just nasty. So I've been enjoying my Shears 2.0 grooming kit. I've been enjoying the foot deodorant that comes with the performance package. And really, I mean, I've been enjoying all of the Manscaped products that we've gotten so far. I'm a daily user of the body wash through Manscaped. It smells great. It applies great. And it's like the smell is long lasting too. I've had, my girlfriend tell me oh, wow, are you using a new body wash? First time I used it, I was like, yeah, this is the one that I got from Manscaped. And she's like, wow, that smells really good. So that always feels good when you get validation from your significant other. And I've gotten that validation thanks to Manscaped. So let me give you some more on this new performance package. The Performance Package 4.0 includes the new Lawnmower 4.0. So if you didn't get it during our last promotion, you can get it now, plus a bunch of other stuff. So it comes with the Lawnmower 4.0. Trimmer will change the way you approach your grooming routine. This fourth generation trimmer features advanced skin-safe technology to reduce grooming accidents. You don't want any ingrown hairs or snags on your boys before beach season. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor and an on-off travel lock and gives you the ability to turn on a 4,000K LED spotlight. I mean, who knows when you're going to be shaving in the dark? Who knows? I've been in a situation before where I've been in the shower and the lights went out. Guess what? You need something to be able to see. So what better than a 4,000K LED light on your Lawnmower 4.0 to make sure you can see what's going on? I love it. If the power grid goes out in Texas again, you can use your Lawnmower 4.0 to illuminate the way with this LED spotlight. 100% right. We were out of power. The power grid in Texas, it can't stand it when it's cold. It can't stand it when it's hot. It'll just go out at any point in time. So if you live in Texas specifically, get the Lawnmower 4.0 so you can have an awesome shaver and a flashlight at all times. The trimmer is also waterproof, so you can trim in the shower and not worry about the cleanup on aisle D. That's right. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ears. One thing about nose hairs is that you don't really, as a guy, I never really paid attention to my nose hair until it was called out to me. And that's embarrassing. I'm just kind of sitting there on the couch one day and I have a full beard and mustache combo. And my girlfriend looks at me and says you have really long nose hair. I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean I have long nose hair? She's like, I can see there's nose hair that's sticking out of your nose. I was like, what? That's okay. That doesn't feel good. So I went upstairs and I checked and there indeed was a nose hair that was essentially poking out almost down into my mustache, which is just ugh. I did not that really kind of like mentally threw me off. So now having the Weed Whacker from Manscaped makes it super easy for me to get in there, trim the nose hairs without having to use tweezers or anything like that. You just get in there, buzz it out real quick, and you are good to go. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive little nostrils of yours. Use the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner to keep you on your game in the heat. It is hot, you sweat, and you know, everybody knows. When you sweat, you don't just sweat under your arms, you sweat everywhere. So, and this is especially important and notable for people who are athletic. If you run, if you play sports during the summer, if you're active during the summer, having some sort of like deodorant for down there to help anti-chafing, to help with chafing or anything like that, to stop the chafing is super important. I've been using it since I got it. And I will say, not only like, again, everything Manscaped smells good. Let's just put that out there up front. Everything smells good. But it does help with just perspiration and the chafing and all of the issues, the jock itch or anything like that could come from just sweating in the heat of the summer. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0. The Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level. The boxers are awesome. They're incredible. I know that some people in our community have already bought them and they vouch for them as well. So pick those up. And anybody who gets the Performance Package 4.0 gets 2 free gifts with it as well. We also talked about the Shears 2.0 luxury 4-piece nail kit featuring tempered stainless steel tools that include slash-tipped tweezers, rounded point scissors, fingernail clippers, and a medium grit nail file. And like we said, it's summertime, so you're probably wearing open-toe shoes. So make your feet look as good as they can. The Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit is a perfect way to do that. You can get the Lawnmower 4.0 and the Performance Package 4.0 with 20% off and free shipping with the code SWTS at Manscaped. 20% off plus free shipping with the code SWTS at manscaped.com. Tame that summer swamp in your pants with Manscaped. Thank you to Manscaped. Thank you to everybody in our community who has supported us with purchases through Manscaped. And hey, if you heard something on there, if you heard something in that read that you were like, man, I would really like to try the deodorant, or I would really like to try the foot spray or anything like that, you can just go buy those individually too. You don't have to buy the whole package. SWTS at checkout will get you 20% off and free shipping for anything on the website. So if you just want to try the body wash, if you just want to try the foot deodorant, if you just want to try the Shears 2.0 nail kit, you can get 20% off and free shipping worldwide for anything. A supportive purchase for Manscaped is a supportive purchase for the Star Wars Time Show. So thank you, Manscaped. Thank you, Star Wars Time Show community, for showing us love by showing them love. All right, let's get back to the Star Wars news and happenings. And now we're going to talk about the Acolyte series a little bit. So the Acolyte series is one of the new pieces of Disney Plus content that was announced during the end of 2020 extravaganza that essentially introduced us to 10 new pieces of Star Wars Disney Plus content and just a host of new characters and stories that will be told to us over the coming years. The Acolyte series is the new series from Leslie Headland, who is the creator of the Netflix series Russian Doll, that focuses on the High Republic era, specifically the end of the High Republic era. And very little is known about this. I mean, we've seen the title screen for it, and the title screen alone looks very dark in comparison to basically everything else we've seen in the Star Wars universe recently. Like, all of the other shows are, you're focused on the good guys and you're focused on, how the good guys are helping to preserve the galaxy and keep things in order, basically. Even in the original trilogy time, that the bad guys were in power, but we were focused on the story of the good guys. This Acolyte TV series looks like we could be leaning in a little bit of a different direction, but again, there's very, very little known about it yet. The only thing that we have to go on before, or the only thing that we had to go on before this most recent interview with Leslie Headland, was the blurb for the show, which basically says that it's a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. So like I said, it's skewing a little bit more dark than we typically do in Star Wars, which I'm excited about. I love the dark stories. I love the dark side and the dark side users. And we never really, while we do get a little bit of them, we get a little bit of focus on them in the original trilogy and the other stories told throughout the movies. They were never brought into clear focus. So maybe with the Acolyte, we can see that a little bit more. And then in an interview this past week, Leslie Headland basically broke down to us what the inspiration for the show was and what she sees, like how she sees the show functioning in the Star Wars landscape. So Leslie is a self-admitted, this is a quote from her, die-hard cutthroat fan of Star Wars. And when she says that, she goes into detail about the content that not only she's seen and read, but also played. Like she has played a lot of the Star Wars video games, going even as far back as Empire at War and these old games way back in the day. She's played the new Jedi Fallen Order games. She is a Star Wars fan through and through. Like she is, up with us here in the psycho level of Star Wars fandom. So that's really awesome to know that she's not just taking the helm of the show as like a casual observer of Star Wars. She is kind of a deep-seated nerd like we are. And Leslie gave us a little bit of insight into how she developed this series, what was the inspiration to it, and a lot of the inspiration for the Acolyte actually comes from the Phantom Menace. When TPM came out in 1999, Leslie said she was 18 years old. She was in high school still. So it was a very huge cultural moment for her. And as a Star Wars fan prior, it was just a huge, fan moment. And, we all know how the reception to the prequels went. And we all know that there's kind of a division, or, less now, but there's still a division in the fandom about how the prequels played out and people's feelings towards them. But for Leslie, the Phantom Menace actually played a huge role in influencing what would become the Acolyte TV series. And based on this quote, basically what she's saying is she wanted to explore the reasons why the Jedi Order was the way that it was during TPM. She wanted to explore the reasons why the galaxy was basically in such a comfortable state that there was even surprise among the Jedi, among the older Jedi, even Yoda, when Darth Maul was discovered and they realized, hey, the Sith are back. Why was there this level of surprise to see the dark powers rising again in the galaxy? Why was the galaxy in such a comfortable place after, essentially, we had no idea what was going on prior to that. And still to this day, there's not a lot of stories that are written pre-episode 1 that don't go back thousands of years. We had content about the Old Republic. We had content that spanned back thousands of years pre-episode 1, but we never really knew what was going on right outside of episode 1. You didn't see too much of that. And that's kind of what Leslie wants to explore with the Acolyte series, is showing the rise of the dark powers in these shadowy spaces in the galaxy, and how they were able to essentially skirt the radar of the Jedi, and that, and why it was such a surprise to the Jedi when a Sith popped up out of nowhere during the Phantom Menace timeline. So it's really interesting. It's a gap that we've never had filled. Even if you go back to old EU canon, there was never really anything that explored it, and it was always kind of this area of mystery. And the most I had ever read on it, and maybe they went into it in comics a little bit that I didn't read, but like the basically what we were led to believe was that, like, after the end of the Darth Bane trilogy, which closed out about 1,000 years before the Phantom Menace, the books ended, and it happened 2,000 something years after the Old Republic games and the Old Republic canon with Revan and Malak and all of that. Like, essentially, we were just led to believe that, the Sith kind of laid low. Like, they just implemented the rule of two. They laid low until bingo bango, Sidious is now on the stage. He's a senator, and then he moves his way up into chancellor, and then the imperial reign takes over. So we were just kind of led to believe that everything just kind of was ho-hum, and we were just making our way merrily throughout the galaxy for 1,000 years before we get to the Grand Republic days, and the days when Chancellor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, makes his way into power. So it was always an area that was kind of gray, that was filled with ambiguity and a lot of unanswered questions. So I'm glad that Leslie is focusing on that. The way that I put it in the article that's written up on starwarstime.net, go read it, is that she's essentially building a prequel to the prequels. Excuse me. Water break. She's telling a story that tells us how we got to where we were when everything kicked off. When the episodic timelines began with episode 1. So I'm really excited about that. I think that that's an incredible place to pick up. I know that there's been some, hesitancy with the High Republic era so far. We haven't gotten a lot of content about it yet. We've got some young adult novels. We got some children's novels. We have these two now standard/adult novels with The Light of the Jedi and The Rising Storm. And then you have the comic series, which Matt has been keeping us apprised of anytime a new comic drops. But we know that Star Wars fans, at least most Star Wars fans, are Star Wars fans of the visual medium. You guys want to see stuff done in animated form or in live action TV series form or in movie form. So a lot of people are just taking their opinions on the High Republic from others, which is always dangerous to do. So I'm glad that we're finally going to get important information, important story and context from the High Republic era being told in a live action format, a live action series format. So that's really cool. Leslie also spoke a little bit on the writer's room and how diversity has helped build the story in a different way. And, she was mentioning, like, more of what she was talking about was diversity in terms of Star Wars experience. Yes, the writer's room is diverse in terms of, like, human features, race, gender, sexual orientation, stuff like that. But she was more speaking about, like, diversity in Star Wars experience. As she is a like I said before, she is a self-proclaimed diehard who has been essentially a Star Wars lifer and has read, played, seen all Star Wars content since she was a child. So she is of the ilk like we are, the people who are listeners of the Star Wars Time Show. She is a hardcore fan, but she wanted to make sure that the whole writer's room was not people like us. Because if you do have a writer's room that is completely made up of only diehard fans, then you skew into an area where you may you may create something that's too heady for more casual fans, that like for people who don't know the name of every planet in every series, or who don't know that that LEET is the, that L337 is the navicomputer that's inside of the Falcon, which is why it has the best navicomputer in the entire galaxy, or like this small minutia shit like that we as hardcore fans really enjoy knowing, and we really enjoy talking about week over week. That can get to a point to where, like, if that's all you talk about, then the show is just it's too heady and it's too much for a wider appealing group to really enjoy it. She called out specifically that John and Dave have done a fantastic job with The Mandalorian, essentially creating a subspace in the Star Wars universe where anybody can come in, regardless of your knowledge of the universe. You didn't need to know anything about Star Wars to start watching The Mandalorian, because you are introduced to it in pieces, and you're introduced to it in a way that allows you to build your fandom along with the show, and then you can expand your fandom outward from it. You can go backwards to the OT and prequel eras. You can go forwards to the sequel trilogy era. So she specifically called out John and Dave and the job that they did, kind of making it an approachable series with The Mandalorian, and that's her goal here. And some of the choice quotes that I'll call out is, specifically she talks about George around the OT time. She says, you want to have people that respect the source material, who absolutely know what you're talking about, but at the same time, I think it's important that you have some voices who are approaching it a little bit more as George Lucas was approaching Episode 4. When he wrote A New Hope, he was not approaching it like, well, in Star Wars, there's this thing. He's talked over and over again about his inspiration for that film being from tone poems or from a school of cinema that was much more about visual representation of feelings. And of course, the monomyth, not from a place of, I have encyclopedic knowledge about Star Wars. So basically what she's saying is, when George was writing Episode 4, there was no, there was no Star Wars encyclopedia for him to reference and to pull these things out of. He was creating all of this. He was creating on the fly, and he didn't have kind of a slavish sort of adherence to, to the lore and to the minutia and to the encyclopedic type of information that he did during the prequel era, which was why the prequels were a little bit more heady, and they were a little bit more difficult to get into, especially story-wise, when you look at, like, well, what was driving the story? What was driving the story in the prequel era was, it had a lot to do with galactic politics, and it had a lot to do with very not grandiose things like you saw during the original trilogy, where it was a clear good versus bad story. These guys are the bad guys, these guys are the good guys. There's this mystic power, and it's a story. It's a classic hero's journey story for Luke Skywalker, and it's a classic good versus evil story for everybody who watched it. The prequels were way more complex in a way the story was delivered, and the content of the story, and what the content of the story was. So she is approaching it, in more of she wants to approach it more like George did in the original creation of the original trilogy, which is awesome, because it basically is like she's trying to make it appeal. She's trying to make this Acolyte series appeal to more people, which is always a good thing. So speaking on, like, the type of people that she wants in the writer's room, she likened it to this. She wants people where you could go up to them, and essentially this is what she said. She wants to be able to say, hi, I know you don't know any of this, but what do you think about this storyline? What do you think about this character? What do you think about this being a major set piece? So she, instead of saying like, do you think that this fits in Star Wars? Like, does this, minute piece line up with this minute piece that happens 50 years ago? Just looking at it more holistically, building a Star Wars story that is authentically Star Wars, but doesn't need to be so heady that people can't understand what's going on. So I really like that approach to it. I really like that she has a clear vision and a clear strategy for approaching the show and approaching the narrative and the character building and everything. And I think that that's going to be a big boon to how she builds the show and how the ultimate outcome of the Acolyte will be. So the Acolyte series by Leslie Headland is slated to come to Disney Plus, but we don't know when. Obviously, it's still in early development. There's been no filming. We know that there's still actively filming Kenobi. They're still actively filming Andor. They're still actively developing season 3 of The Mandalorian. And, with all of that content coming, it leads me to believe that we probably won't see the Acolyte series until, I'm going to say, like late 2022 at the earliest. Something that's a little bit farther out than what we're seeing, when we're going to see the Mando or anything like that. So it was really cool to see how she is approaching the show, not only from a development and inspiration standpoint, but also how she's approaching the writer's room and having people who are massive nerds and having, the Lucasfilm storytellers there, but also having a contingent of writers who are more casual fans or who don't know as much about the universe as, say, the Pablo Hidalgo or anything like that. So it was really cool to kind of hear her lay out her thoughts and her process on the Acolytes. I'm excited for the series because I like that we're finally getting outside of this Skywalker saga timeline a little bit. So I think we're going to have some good stuff there. Next piece of news, last piece of news before we get into our top 5 for this week, is the first look at Star Wars Visions that we got earlier this week. Star Wars Visions is the anime anthology project that Lucasfilm and Disney Plus have put together in association with 7 different Japanese anime studios. So these are actual Japanese anime studios. This is not like an American studio that's making a version of Japanese anime. This is actual Japanese anime studios making Star Wars stories. And we got our first look at the series after it was shown at Anime Expo Light. The attendees of Anime Expo Light got a little bit more than we did through the YouTube video that was shared by Star Wars, but we still did get a good idea of what the approach is with Visions, how these studios are approaching their storytelling, and just more information on what Visions is as a project. So some points of clarification for those of you who don't know what Visions is. Visions is essentially 9 episodes that are completely disconnected from each other. This is not like an interconnected story being told like you would have in Clone Wars or Rebels or Bad Batch or any other like series style of show. Each episode is a self-contained story. And these are being developed by 7 different Japanese animation studios. Each studio will have their own story to tell. Each studio is going to have their own visual representation and visual style that they're going to tell the story in. And that will make this a very unique type of show. So you're going to be watching, brand new stories told every week that aren't connected to the previous ones. So I thought that was really awesome. There was a 3-minute video that's available now on the Star Wars YouTube channel, but you can also find it on our post entitled "First Look Star Wars Visions" on starwarstime.net. It's embedded in our post, and you essentially have short little segments with a lot of the creators of these stories from the Japanese animation studios, and you essentially get to hear them talk about what it was like for them to find out that they were going to work on Star Wars, and what it was like for them to build a Star Wars story of their very own, because these aren't stories that Lucasfilm has dictated to them. Like Lucasfilm and Disney did not like give them a script and say like, here, this is the story that you're making. Just do it in your style. They allowed these studios and these creators to come up with their own stories and tell them in a uniquely Star Wars way, which I thought was really cool. It's something that you don't often see in just high level IP development. Like, with an intellectual property as important as Star Wars, more often than not, you don't see people just saying like, oh yeah, just tell your own story. We're not going to have any sort of say on it. You usually have story outlines. You usually have kind of, approvals and down the checklist, and this gets passed to this person, and then it's okay. It seems like these creators were given kind of freelance and free reign to tell a story of their own making